Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Power Tech Talk hosted by Sky Mavis Vietnam, third startup or unicorn. My name is Minh Ngân, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. Why our founder, co-founders, and leaders of Sky Mavis want to have this kind of event? Because we think that it's important to stay connected and to stay strong together, because as our CEO said, we are here to win and we are here to stay. And the topic of today's program is also something that got reminded over and over again from the beginning of Sky Mavis, of Axie, and until this very moment, which is the importance of community when it comes to building the blockchain projects. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Please give him a bigger round of applause. Yeah, so the stage is yours. Please share with us about the topic. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been looking at community since I made the decision to jump into this new world, into this tech community that we have here in Vietnam. And we try to look for elements of a strong community in any startup that we invest in, whether it's Web 2 or especially Web 3. So yeah, I'm in venture capital. I think most of you have heard the phrase. I won't do a whole lecture about how the math works around it, but effectively what we have to do is find companies that are worth this much and make them or help them be this much. And we're often wrong. A lot of founding a startup is hard, so many startups fail. So we need really big winners to make up for the failures and make us proud and make our investors money. For us in particular, we're in the early stage, so it's often when the team is just getting started. There's often no revenue. Sometimes there's not even a product yet, as was the case with Sky Mavis. So it can be very hard to understand whether or not to join the founders in their journey at that point. We use a couple things that every VC uses. First is the founders. How strong is the team? How special is the team? And then the second is the market size. Is it a big enough opportunity that it can become this big over time? And when we met Sky Mavis, like I said, there was very little. It was back in mid-2018. There was some artwork, fantastic artwork, but just artwork. There was no battle system yet. I remember, Jeff and Alex were like, "Hey, wait, we're going to release it in a couple months." It's like, "What? You're selling me a game? You don't actually have a game yet." So why did we end up investing? The answer, in short, because you can tell from the topic, is community. I'll talk about the specifics about that later. And let me talk about generalities first. Community. It's a very often used word now, especially in Web 3. A lot of folks use it loosely to say, hey, it's your customers or your users. I think that's a very, very imperfect way to think about it. Yes, any business, whether it's in Web 2 or Web 3, needs users, needs customers. But community is more than that. And in fact, a lot of Web 2 companies can build very successful businesses around just serving a disparate set of users that are very disconnected from each other. Web 3, the community, is actually a required component of success. We see a lot of Web 3 projects where the founders, the team, rely on the community to evangelize about the new thing, the white paper, the cryptocurrency or whatever. And so there's a lot of chatter on their discords about what do we have to do next to make sure our token price goes up. Counter evangelism can be helpful, as in, when there's FUD, when there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But a really strong community goes beyond that. So beyond that, a thriving community actually contributes to what's being built. They are world builders alongside the founders and the employees. They're actually, you can say a good community is part of a Web3 team, not separate from. And what do I mean by that? They play a role in developing product. Of course, give feedback, give ideas, give insights, share about market trends. These are all helpful. Even better, they're actually taking part in helping the team, the Web3 team, decide what to build, what to prioritize, what to set aside. Calls out the Web3 team when they made a mistake. Real-time feedback is super important. Web 2 companies, without a community, they see their feedback in the form of lost revenue. And revenue, it's a lagging indicator, or it can take some time before it hits the very top of the Web2 leadership, before they realize, oh, something's wrong about our product. But for Web3, given the nature of how people communicate, you hear it right away. And that's super important for speed of iteration. One of the things I'm excited about at Sky Mavis today is the Builders Program, and how it identifies great builders and incentivizes them to build within the Axie universe. So a strong community plays a very fundamental role, and so it's one of the things that we look for whenever we look at a Web3 project, and we look past, for those reasons I said, we look past the number of followers on Twitter, or the number of users on your Discord, or even the number of messages sent per day, because those could all be noisy. What did it look at for Sky Mavis in those early days, 2018, 2019? It was pretty incredible. The number of users were few. In the earliest days, obviously dozens and hundreds, and then maybe some thousands, nothing like what we've seen over the last couple of years. But what they lacked in numbers, they had in heart. They were creating user-generated content. They were doing art, they were writing songs, singing songs, they were getting tattoos of Axie Infinity characters on themselves. So that's a real long-term commitment there, right? I'm not sure I would have done that at the time, but they did that, and it was pretty impressive to me. I look for the depth and truth of belief of the users, the community members, in the long-term vision that's been set out by the team. And you can see that through the ebbs and flows, the challenges and successes, what they talk about and how they talk about it. I judge it by the openness and honesty of communication between the members of the community among each other, and between the project full-time people, Sky Mavis in this case, and the community as well. Very open, very honest, very constructive conversation, clear corrective feedback when it's due, clear success celebrations when it's due. And it's something that I think is great, that even as the company reaches 200 people now, I know the founders spend a lot of time still keeping a pulse on the community and interacting with it. So far in my last several years, I've been able to talk with thousands of founders, and I've been able to join a few dozen, about 33 so far, in their journey as an investor. Usually it takes 10 years for something to reach its full fruition, its full potential. So it's only been 3 years, it's still early to count my chickens, but so far, out of those 33 companies, we have 2 unicorns. We have 3 companies worth more than $100 million, we have 5 exits. So these are, without benchmark data, it's hard to know how those are, but they're really good. I'm very happy about it, and I know a lot of it is about luck on my part. I know most of it is about the strength of the founders and the team. But that's why community is so important to me as an investor. The community should be part of the team in the best case. And so we'll continue to look for the strength of the community whenever we look at any project.
Please give our Eddie a big round of applause for the sharing that he has today. One more interesting keynote to share with you. The story of Sky Mavis, of Axie Infinity, from around 500 users 5 years ago to up and down more than 2 million users today. And we have Jeff here, Jiho, and he's going to join us on the stage and share with us about the journey, about the ups and downs, about the pain points, and also about how proud he is and every co-founder is when it comes to the Axie Infinity community. Please join us on the stage, Jiho.
What's up, everybody? It's amazing to see your faces out here. Thanks for joining us for this really special event. The journeys all started 5 years ago. We didn't know it at the time, right? The birth of Axie was really a kind of organic genesis from the CryptoKitties community, right? Chung was involved in CryptoKitties. I was involved with CryptoKitties. Chung, as an engineer, wanted to see how far can we take this idea of a NFT, which I think we were looking at as just the future of digital collectibles, a digital collectible that you could actually own for the first time. And over the years, it's really developed into far more than just working on a game, right? It's developed into this grand mission to change how the internet works from the ground up, right? To really deliver property rights and access to finance for everyone in the world, but especially starting with gamers. So we talked a little bit about our mission, but one of the ways that I like to think about it is, right, in the early days, before it became about property rights and starting this digital nation, I think we were just trying to ask questions and answer questions that had never been asked before, right? So what do they look like? Or one is, what if we built a game that aligned incentives with the players and allowed us to build together, right? What if game assets could actually grant access to an infinite library of games, right? So imagine a digital collectible that acts as a key, not just to one experience, but to a constantly expanding library of experiences. That's all possible with NFTs. And yeah, what if we made a beautiful and immersive game and infused it with Web3 technology? And by doing that, what if we can make crypto fun and nostalgic rather than boring and scary, right? Until NFTs, it was all about money, right? But that actually isn't a great engagement mechanism to get everyday people excited. So it's clear that this strategy, these questions have led to huge numbers, right? Axie Infinity is the #1 NFT project by all-time volume of all time, over $4 billion, and over 2 million people own Axies. So how is our model different? Why has a team from Vietnam been able to introduce this concept to the world? What about our model makes us different? What did we really invent? Well, one of the key differences, right, is in the business model, right? Web3 is about getting rid of gatekeepers and middlemen, and we felt like there were so many layers of extraction in the current gaming industry, right? In the current model, developers are selling game items to players, like resources, skins, game copies, and they're taking all of the money. Plus, on top of that, there are these middlemen, right? The publishers and the app stores that are taking 20 or 30% of all of the transaction volume. Our model is different, where we focus on growing the player-to-player market, right? Where 95% of all the value actually goes directly to the players. So one way to think of it is, right, we're using this model that allows us to lowering our margin by a lot compared to a traditional developer. But because we're sharing that value with the community, there's this level of evangelism and engagement that makes us far more than just a traditional game. So how do we bootstrap this community? Well, at 500 Startups Accelerator, SALA, we learned about growth experimentation. And in the early days, we did a lot of different experiments to get Axies in the hands of people, right? For example, a lot of us, we came from the CryptoKitties community, right? So we were giving out Axies, manually recruiting members to our community by gifting CryptoKitty community members Axies. Right, like Peter Thiel in 0 to 1, right? He talks about how in the early days, the founders actually have to be like recruiters of users, manually doing it one by one. And I think this is actually the stage that most startups die, because they're not willing to actually do the work on the ground, going to where the users are and onboarding them by hand. And I think the way that we did that and the users that we targeted in the early days, that was what allowed us to create this community of missionaries that really were super aligned with our vision. So yeah, and the scale of that is clear, right? Where Axie is one of the largest discords in the world, is the largest discord in Web3 gaming. So one of the ways, right, when you think about, okay, the community, why is community such an important distribution channel, and how do you measure it, right? Well, one of the things that we look at is, okay, the community, as Eddie said, is partnering with us to produce UGC, right? So when we think about their output, how do we measure it? Well, we can measure it in the amount of art that they're producing, and the number of tattoos that they're getting, the birthday cakes that they're making. So that's really, really, so they're making music videos, getting tattoos. In the early days, that was really important because it was so hard for us to bootstrap attention, right? We now live in the attention economy. And when people saw that this amazing community was doing this, even though they're small, there must be something special here. I want to be a part of it. So one of the questions that we get a lot now is, right, how do we get to the next stage, right? There was this huge growth cycle in Web3 and crypto and NFT gaming that Axie led, but what are the ways that we can actually get to the next level and onboard more everyday players? So my thesis on this is that we need to harness the emotional aspect of gaming, right? And you can think of it as kind of like almost the 7 sins, right? Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, right? Pride is I need to be the best at this. Greed is I need to have the most. Lust is if I have that, I'll actually be more attractive. Envy, right, is when you see someone having something super rare, you want it too. Wrath is they beat me, I need revenge, right? That's like, wanting to spend to actually upgrade your character or get something that's stronger. So we think that that's actually going to be super important, and getting to the next stage where you have gamers that are spending for a lot of the reasons that they spend in traditional games. But the only difference is that when they're spending it, it's not going to one game developer, it's being shared with a community of millions. So how are we going to do this? Well, one of our approaches, right, is to start upgrading the art and allow for part upgrades, right? So this small Axie, that's a level 1 Axie, or that's an Axie with all level 1 parts. And now we're going to be introducing level 2 parts. These level 2 parts will have new aesthetics, stat boosts, and in-game power-ups. So you can see this is a beast and this is an aquatic with all level 2 parts. And actually we just talked to the community, and when we asked them, like, what are you most excited about? Are you excited for Origins? Are you excited for more Axie games? Are you excited for non-Axie games on Ronin? Or are you excited for part upgrades? Actually, part upgrades was voted number 1 with 38% of the vote. So our community is also aligned with us and thinking that this is a very important area of focus. When we think about how we got here, huge part of that is, right, we work directly with the community. We leverage them as a distribution channel. We help them and empower them to actually be our biggest ambassadors and to build alongside us, even guide our product decisions, right? And so what are some of the principles, right? So we have rewarding community, right? This is the idea that everyone's time is valuable and that everyone should actually be rewarded for the contributions that they make to a project. Co-creation, right? It's not just about Sky Mavis captaining the ship. Like, of course we need to provide a strong direction and leadership, but it's also about this creative partnership between the community and the gamers that love your product. And co-ownership, right? Ownership is the fundamental aspect that differentiates Web3 from the old internet. And what does that actually mean in the context of a game, right? And to us, right, it's like owning your in-game assets, owning your in-game resources, even being able to own a piece of the game itself, right, through the access token.
Hi everyone, so my name is Adele, business manager from Job Hopping. So I have a question for you. It's not just about the game community. My question would be, what do you think would be the main or the sustainable motivation for the user of the community?
Sure. So one of the things that we think about, right, is Axie as a movement. And every movement actually is a coalition of different types of people with different reasons for being there, right? And winning movements are able to build a broad and large coalition among people who have these different ideas, right? So, and I think you touched on some of the good archetypes of people that we want in this movement, right? People who love their Axies, they're in it for the game, they're in it because they see their Axies as these amazing emotional pets. There are also a lot of people who are in it because they see this as something that could actually change the world and make it more free. And there are also, right, the speculators, and that's fine, that can be a percentage of the community. So I think it's about creating harmony between these different motivations rather than over-indexing on just one.
Thank you so much, Gino.
Now come to the panel discussion, the strategy to build a sustainable community for blockchain projects. And Chung Nguyen, co-founder and CEO of Sky Mavis, will make his first appearance as a host in today's program.
Let's get started. So I guess we have enough of formal talks today. So maybe we'll switch the mode a little bit, get to more kind of casual talks between founders. First of all, let's start with a question of Juan. So when did you guys realize that we should have to build a really solid community for your own project?
You want to go first?
Yeah, let's start with Luke first.
Sure. Let me go first. First of all, because before I get into answer the questions, Kyber is one of the most OG projects in Web3 world. So the first time when we really realized that like the community is super strong, like this is very powerful, it was in the ICO era when Kyber was like raising the money. Like back then, like FYI, if you don't know, in 2017, Kyber was one of the hottest ICO in the world. Back then, like we literally Axie cracked all of this Discord kind of thing, right? But we cracked the Slack one. So we use Slack for the community, and the Slack couldn't handle more than 32 people joining the same Slack. So we kind of like broke Slack, and they had to upgrade the whole system, to support that. By that moment, we know that the community is very powerful. However, we have another milestone that I think is not that happy, is that we lose the community. So that is something that is, I think this is very unique in compared to Axie. You didn't lose any community yet, right? So we lose the communities is also the when. This is also the answer for the when, because I think it's matter. We lose the community because we didn't keep up with the change of the market. And the communities, they have a different needs. We didn't really have enough times, to talk to the communities back then. This is around 2020 and 2021. And now we are trying to rebuild the community as well with a much higher standard. And as soon as we see the community is engaging again, and suddenly like everyone in the teams see that like we have so many inspirations, so many bullies in the teams, because like all the things that we have been building, all the things that we're delivering every day, every week, every month is reflected in a very good way from the communities. And that is one of the things that I think that is one of the most powerful things. Like the team needs the community to back them up.
So actually, I see a lot of like similarities between our own communities in the early days. I still remember like Jeff, when he was a community member, he was actually the person who like read our white paper and correct like a lot of typos. And yeah, we also hit some limits with Discord, the maximum amount of like users for Discord server was like 750,000, and right now it's like 800K, right? So a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And talking about ups and downs, so you mentioned that like Kyber was actually it was a hosted project at the time.
Yeah, in 2017, ICO one. Yes.
Like, did you buy any KNC at the time?
I did, but it was in 2019 when it's the bottom of KNC. Like,
Me too.
Nice.
like
You guys,
I think like 15 cents or so.
you guys realize the Coin98 vibe, right? Like always getting to in a very good time.
Yeah, so talking about up and down, I see that we all went through 2018 when it was like the bottom, like the last bottom of the whole crypto industry, and that definitely affects like communities. Maybe Coin98, I think you can share with us like the stories of that era of Coin98.
Our stories is different than Kyber and Axie. I think like Axie and Kyber start building a community around the product since the beginning. For Coin98, so I started founding Coin98 since 2017. And in the first 3 years, all we do is like building a investing community. So that's where I guess like the first interest about this market. I enter as a retail investor, and then end up becoming a long-term holder, and then you need to try like finding the thesis behind investing in specific tokens, and building a community around that, where you can share and talk more and helping each other on finding like the next 100x or so, and supporting each other on how to invest in crypto in the right way and for long term as well. So we do that for 3 years until 2020. So the first version of Coin98 Wallet was launched in 2020 January, and back then the reason behind launching the wallet itself is like first. Wallet is back in the day, I think we see some kind of signal of like the new waves of people who using non-custodial applications, And then back then there's not many like good products. And as a trader, there's so many trading opportunities back then, and then you are there's very limited tools that you can really take advantage of to execute a trade. So that's and then it's come up like we have trading communities, we have investing communities, and what is the next step that we can take like our community to the next level. It end up like we all need this kind of applications that all the existing players in the market that it's not fulfilled that demand yet. So we take we just like step up and then building that product and ship it back into the communities that we build in the first 3 years. So and then I still remember like in the first 3 months that we launched the wallet, immediately we have like 200,000 users. At Coin98 since then, we are trying to see unfulfilled demand on the market where that's surfing the same community that people are looking for trading and investing opportunities, and then nobody's in the market that doing in a very great job. So we're trying to becoming one of the first guys that surfing them and doing serve them at best. So take advantage of that strategies. We're trying to becoming like the first crypto wallet that supports Solana. Back then, everyone knows that we invest in Solana, and so we decided to build a wallet for Solana as well. It was a massive success, because back in the day it's only Solid wallet and it sucks. So people use Coin98 wallet. We have like massive growth, for supporting Solana wallet as well, as for Solana chain as well. Then after that, we support chains after chains after chains, and that's how we grow and building community, until now. Now, Coin98 wallet have 6 million users across the world, and then we are trying to figure out what is the next thing that we. I think like over time, the trading, like the demand of our investors. The users that use Coin98 wallet become more and more as well. So we're trying to catch up with that, with like the change and the growth of the demand as well. Building the thesis is still, I think what the main strategy is still like building a product around your community. Trying to figure out what they need, and then building a product that's serving them at best.
So one quick question: how often do you chat with your users on,
so back in Telegram? I think back in 2018 and 2019, I think I speak one-on-one with our users. I think I speak with like a few hundred of them every single day for the first 3 years. So I even know how much that guy how much money that guy have, where's the money come from, and what they expected from this market. Is that money is coming from their wife? Did she know? or what is the plan? And the purpose behind of like of the profit? After they're making the profit. So I spent a lot of times, talking to them.
So we start to see some difference between projects. So for Axie, I could see that like it's a project growing together with the community. For Coin98, it's actually like bootstrapping the community first and then converting that community into a user way of an application, which is like Coin98 wallet right now. For Kyber, we have like a lot of up and down moment. It was like, I think Kyber ICO catch a lot of attention of the like broader community of like the whole crypto community at the time. And then after that, went through some downs in price, and then right now decided to build up like a new community again. So maybe the same questions to Jeff and Vu. How often did you like chat with your users, chat with your community members?
So I think like in the Axie Discord, I have over 300,000 messages. But now over time, I've had to switch to Twitter, right? Where now it's like you're able to broadcast messages to the entire community with the click of a button in one consolidated channel. I think of being a founder and building community is like, how do you have that tight-knit feeling that you used to have at scale?
Vu, what about you?
I share a lot of my opinions with Ziho, actually, because I think like this is the best experience for a founder, to go out there and then talk directly, face to face, especially to the community member. Like it is not just for the community member, it is for us. One is the community is in the right hand, and the second one is on the left hand side is the team itself. So my most of my times I spend with the foundation of the team, because I think in order to for the team to grow, and for the team to have enough convictions, to have enough beliefs, and to have enough of like product and all the values to bootstrap the communities, we have to have a very good team, very strong team, professional team. Not professional in terms, not just in terms of the product, in terms of like sales and things like that, but also in terms of communication. And communication is one of the hardest skill in the world. So I really think my strategy is to rebuild that, like really build the foundation of the teams. Along the way, we have recruited a few like company evangelists, the people that really know the communities, and they actually coming from the community itself. They really understand not just the community from Kyber, but also community from Uniswap, for community from all the competitors in the DeFi space, and not just on Ethereum, also on Polygon, on Avalanche, on many different chains. And we gather them together in order to have like form an evangelist team working as an operation. So we put them as an operation team. So your operation is to communicate like everything that we have in the community, in the team to the communities. So I have that team, and that team is very, very close to me. So I talk to them every day. So I talk to the evangelist team who go out there and talk to the community. So I talk to them every day, and I make sure that we have the transparency ethos in the team, like transparency, core value in the team. So I can be confident when I talk to to those people. I can know pretty much everything in the community in a very, very efficient way.
I want to add on that what Chiho have said. This is my lessons, what I've learned, when I look back. As a founder, building community is hard, and building community at scale is even harder. So as a founder, one thing that you should aware of is that building a community have stages, and then different stages have different ways to communicate with your communities. For me, when my communities is only have like 5 or 10,000 members, right? And then my team is very small, and there's not much thing I can do within the communities. So I have a lot of time to communicate with all the members, and a lot of members in community. But when your community is 100,000, you cannot communicate with all of them. And you need to find a better way to communicate with them. Like Joseph said, you may want to switch your communication channel from Discord to Twitter, or like Victor, you might want to build a team around you to just go out there and talk to them, and then at the end of the day, to come back and talk to you, and what happens in the communities, right? So. Different stages of community have different ways to communicate and grow in your community. So you need to make sure that where you stay, which stage that you are at.
I think just like it's actually very insightful to hear like all your stories, all your answers. Like just starting with one small questions. How do you like spend time with your community? Like how often? Then you guys turn it into like how to actually scale communities. So I'm very impressed with your answers, to be honest. So you mentioned building back community, and I believe when you go out there, when you talk with the community, even like on a public forum like Twitter, sometimes you have to deal with a lot of backfire from the community. Let's say when the price goes down, let's say when people are emotional, they want to like say bad things just to like express their feelings. So I know that you have to deal a lot with that, like all of you. So how do you deal with that, and especially when the market is down, like very down?
It happens a lot of time to us as well. So not on the product side, but when we invest in Sol at $1, so we invest in Solana under $1, right? So maybe like 60 cents or so. Back in like early 2020, and then a lot of people like just like app in like us, at the same range, and then when it comes to like $3, people still like app in, and then it's gone down to $1. So a lot of people like people react it like very crazy. People put a lot of trust on you. People like put the whole saving on you. So and then they don't want to take that responsibility. You know, a lot of people put a lot of pressures on me. You know, a lot of like bad words on me, and on the whole team as well. And then when I take a look, when I take a look at what we did, I think we did anything, we did nothing wrong. It's just like market volatility, and then you bring the emotion of all the people. I think it's too high. What is the best action we can do? We just keep telling people the way that we communicate with them before the event as well. So we're still consistent with our message. So we're bullish on the technology. It is what it is. It's still there's nothing changed. And we keep we put a very high conviction on that bet as well. It turned out a few months later, Solana come from $1 to 250, right? People make I think those people are millionaires, they got retired already. But that lessons alone, the journey itself, teach me a lot on how you need to have a very super high conviction on what you do. Not only on what you buy, what you trade, what you invest, but also what you build, the way you build a product, what do you want to build this kind of product? Where is the future of that product looks like, and what kind of value that you want to bring to the world. All these things together, you want to make, is living in you is your core value, and I think for this kind of situation, if it happens to you, just trying to look it back, and you want to make sure that you don't stay too far away than that core value, and then just follow your instinct.
Do you have a lot of meme throwing at you at the time?
I think so. I still think that I even have a lot of memes for now as well.
So actually, there's one quick fun way to check how the community think about you at one point in time.
One of the surprising things I discovered when I got into the CEO and I had to go out there and talk to the community. Many people really support Kyber because we were able to build a very good reputation about the teams and about the brand. Not just in Vietnam, but also in around the world. And when someone talked bad about Kyber, I had to deal with a few factors. Like people go out there and then claim for a wrong, false fact, and they just try to fuck the whole team. So in that kind of communications, with all the backfire and things like that, I agree with Tang from Coin98 is we always get back to our own core value, which is one of the core value is transparency. So we go out there, we just be transparent. We have one, we say one. We have two, we say two. That's it. And we get a lot of support from around the Twitter communities. We actually not many in compared to Axie for sure, but a lot of support in compared to in ratio. In compared to the whole community that we have. I think the community from Kyber, we still have to rebuild it for now. But I think the quality of the community is quite good because we kind of get a lot of support from them. And also we are receiving a lot of insight from the competitors, insight from the different market, insight from the different chains, and they even suggest for what is the liquidity for the token you have to work on, and what is the good thing of the new protocol and things like that. So we get a lot of support. The amount of people talking bad on Kyber and doing all the backfiring things like that is just maybe it's 5%, 10%, something like that. And I think this is fine to handle. Just stay with transparency.
So maybe one last topic we want to go through before we finish the session, and then maybe have some questions from other people. What do you think about interacting with community members in real life? So, for example, Jeff, you have engaged in a lot of community events, and you talk to community members directly, engage with them, drink with them. What do you think? How did you feel?
All the people who went to AxieCon, some of them actually had some beef with each other, maybe some esports beefs, but when they met in real life, they felt like family. And that feeling of closeness and that trust that they built in person, it then extends to online, right? And maybe that's why we have AxieCon maybe once a year. In the early days too, nobody was interested in NFTs or Axie, but sometimes if you met with them in person, you could really get them excited. I remember just, in the early days, meeting people and telling them what Axie was until my voice, until I literally lost my voice. or giving them Axies, right? Like Gabby, for example, like he was kind of interested in Axie and he was a very early believer in NFT gaming, but he didn't actually start playing until I went to the Philippines and gave him 3 Axies, right? And he was, of course, like a huge reason that we were able to grow in the Philippines. So sometimes you have to like go and manually force people to use your product.
In general, interact with like real life people is, I think, in my opinion, is 1000x better than communicate online. It's feel real, the person in front of you, you can talk to them, you can, you have the feelings that, you never have, when you talk to them on Twitter, right? Or, on Discord or on Telegram. But the thing is that, all the product and everything that we did, within this industry was online. So I still think that, online is still like, a very good environment for people to know each other and then like start to form the relationship. But like engaging and building a relationship and make it real, I really think that having a in-person meetings or interactions is so much better. And I think that every real like long-term relationship built on trust.
And I think it's really hard to build trust over long term if you never met each other.
So I think like interact with people online helps a lot, but at the end of the day, if you want to like really build a long-term relationship over the decades or so, you need to show up and talking to people in person is bring you totally different experience as well.
I want to really share a little bit about the engagement of the communities to the team members when they meet in real life. They always get back to the team and tell me that the feeling is amazing. Like they can't normally when people they go out there, they recognize the team member and then they approach them, and then we discover that okay, this guy is very valuable. He can contribute so much. But then this is not the same situation when they're on Discord. Like maybe online they just like want to be a listener. Maybe they just like want to be lazy typing and things like that. And also I agree with that because communication take a lot of time. Communication take a lot of effort. And especially when you communicate, it means that you have to sacrifice a little bit of security that you have. Because like when you communicate, it means you expose yourself with opinions, with up and downs, and also with the like the possibilities to be false. So that is one thing. But one of the things, another story I want to share is back in the beginning of 2022, when I got into the CEO positions, Kyber has one of the very long-term situation that KNC token was locked in Coinbase. Everyone, like so many people, got the token locked on Coinbase, and we didn't do anything there. But when I got into the CEO, I think this is the right things, to help all of the people there. So I kind of like engage all of the communities, to push pressure on Coinbase because, like it is very, very hard, to communicate with Coinbase. Super hard because they are regulated. They have so many procedures and things like that, and also the KNC situation is also one of the like different situation. They have never handled it. So I gather the communities there, to push pressure on them and keep pushing them every day, literally. And then finally, we got that situation resolved, and we gained huge amount of trust from the community back then. Huge amount of trust, and this is not just the communities that we have, but also the communities that never be there for Kyber. So that is one win. But one story in that win is one guy in the community, he got paralyzed. Like he got the situation where he can be like permanently paralyzed. And he was out of money. Like all the money he had back then is in KNC and being locked in Coinbase. So I decided to help him myself, to loan him the KNC uncollaterally, like no collateral. I lended the money to him. And so now he got fixed, like the situation, the health situation is okay right now. Like always think about the people that is using the product that you are building right now, contributing value to the communities and contributing value to the teams and contributing value to the product. And in return, if you do the right thing for them, and if you're trying to help them in a very hard time, and then you can build trust. I'm not sure about the long-term relationship because I think long-term relationship needs a lot of like test, but the trust, I think we can be built like that. It can be built like that, not just meeting in person, but really trying to help people. I don't know how to do that in scale. I know how to communicate in scale, but I don't know how to help them in scale, especially maybe education is one. Yeah, so that is a story for myself. It's not really the answer.
I think this is a time when we can just like share stories, and it's not only about like answering questions, but also sharing the experience that you have with like the community that you have gone through when you like run the company and have to interact with like the community on a daily basis. Thank you all. Thank you all the panelists for sharing today, and thank you all for joining with us in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you all so much, our host, for the first time, but I think that this can be replicate in our next Howard Tech Talk event.
First time for you?
It's the first time to be a host. Let's give him a bigger round of applause.